the Utah Jazz are in a situation where this offseason is going to bring significant change to Salt Lake City. And we have been working on a story for several days, just about a week, on what happened at the trade deadline or what didn't happen and the impact that that's having on this team now. And we were privy to some conversations yesterday that explained that Quin Snyder is an unhappy head coach. And I was told by multiple sources. Now, my guy at the Jazz completely denied it. My guy that I talk to on a regular basis over there basically said there's no truth to the rumor that Quin Snyder is likely to resign his position as head coach after this season. There was apparently quite a bit of frustration about the lack of change coming to the Jazz at the NBA trade deadline. There was significant disagreement on what to do with Joe Ingles after he tore his ACL. It was a foregone conclusion that Joe was going to be moved. He was on an expiring contract. That was a foregone conclusion long before he tore his knee. But then once that happened, there was significant dissent in the organization about what to do with that contract and how best to leverage it. It wasn't a question of should the Utah Jazz trade Joe Ingles. The question was to whom and for what. And there was quite a bit of fracture, and I am told that Quin Snyder was very unhappy with the way that Joe Ingles was sent to Portland, and that they did that not early, but they should have held on to Joe for another day. And it likely cost them an opportunity to make a larger deal, whether that involved Rudy Gobert, whether that involved Bojan Bogdanovic. I guess we'll never know at this point. But we know that they had a Rudy Gobert trade scenario where they could have made a significant trade. I'm not saying that didn't happen because of the Joe Ingles contract, but there was frustration among the coaching staff, and particularly with Quin Snyder, that they got zero help at the trade deadline. And I think some of that, and one of the main concerns is that some of that has caused dissent on how to best use this roster. And we've talked about it all season long, really, I feel like, especially since the deadline, the lack of use for guys like Nickeil Alexander-Walker, the lack of use of a Jared Butler, the lack of use here in the playoffs. One of the more interesting storylines is that Rudy Gay has not played a single second in this Dallas series. But the story here is that there is belief around the NBA that Quin Snyder is likely to resign once this season is over. There's a lot of things said. There's a lot of emotion around things like the NBA trade deadline. There's a lot of emotion when you're getting your ass kicked in a series by Dallas. There's a lot of emotion. Noticeably, though, there was zero talk about the locker room, the chemistry, frustration after Game 5. You got your doors blown off. You got embarrassed on Monday night in Dallas, and there was no conversation around that. I think that's a very telling sign that this team, frankly, knows that they're in a real bad spot because nobody is saying anything, and you're hearing now bubbling under the surface that there is dissent and there was a fracture about what happened at the trade deadline, Jake. And I feel like I would put it at better than 60% that Quin Snyder resigns after the season.
Yeah, and I think I can't say that I blame him, if he is feeling frustrations or if, other guys on the roster are feeling frustrations. Like just imagine, again, yesterday on the show I pointed out, like last year you were the number 1 seed in the league. Like you were the best team in the league, and now you're struggling with Dallas. Like that's not a good feeling. So, as you work through a season, and you have your relationship with the media and you're working on your team and you're trying to get better and you don't really get any noticeable help at the deadline. And I'm guessing that there was probably an expectation of at least some help coming in. That's definitely going to be frustrating. And the thing is, I love what Quin brings to the table. Does he have his flaws just like any other head coach? Yeah, sure. But I think this guy's done a hell of a job, and he's been nothing but a stand-up class act the entire time he's been here. And I have to imagine as a head coach, when you're putting strategies together and game plans and you're trying to figure out how am I going to keep Luka in check tonight? And how am I going to keep Dorian Finney-Smith from making like 5 threes in the corner tonight? Like when you're going through those processes and you're looking at this roster and trying to figure out how you're going to do things on the floor, you come to realize that, man, like we're not in a place where we're talking about best or worst case scenario for our strategy. We're talking about percentages. We're talking about, hey, what's the best chance that I have playing this guy in this situation? And that's a frustrating place to be because other teams have more guys that can do more things, you know? Like if you're the Boston Celtics, you got all these guys who can play amazing defense. So you're heading into the game and saying, all right, all we got to do is slow down Kevin Durant and we're in a good place, which is exactly what they did. And they swept. So I don't blame Quinn for feeling some frustration. And you can't tell me, and again, this part is just my opinion, but you can't tell me that guys like Donovan Mitchell or even Rudy Gobert don't feel frustration. I imagine Bojan Bogdanovic feels some frustration with inconsistent touches and the way things work out for him. So I just think, to what you were saying, this team knows that this group of guys is not going to be the same group of guys that starts training camp come October, right? They just know that. They know that. So when you know that, I think that puts you in a place where you're going to give it your best shot tonight, and we'll see what happens. Like I don't think they'll win this series. I think they'll give it their best shot and their level best effort. But I think it's done. I think this group of guys is tried. I think they're out of gas, and that's just the reality of the situation. And I don't think that that's just one person's fault. It's just an unfortunate circumstance with how things have worked out. So yeah, I think that's where they are.
Yeah, I don't think I agree with that. And the reason I say that I don't agree with that is because I do think that Justin Zanuck is going to be a fall guy. I think the changes in the offseason that everybody is focused on is the roster. I think you have to put a clear plan in place. And I think and I know that Justin Zanuck was the guy really working the phones up to the trade deadline.
Yeah.
And I think Justin Zanuck's a guy that's going to, I don't know that Justin Zanuck's going to be fired or moved out or moved on. I don't know. I have not heard that. But I think there is considerable frustration, and it is being crystallized right now as you get boat raced by the Dallas Mavericks if that happens again tonight. And I don't think it will. And we're going to talk about that game in a minute. But when you lose the way that this Jazz team lost and you get embarrassed the way that they got embarrassed, there's going to be some finger pointing. That's going to happen. And I think quietly behind the scenes, I think that if you ask Danny Ainge and Ryan Smith right now, they are ready to move on. They are ready to begin a new chapter. But if you ask Justin Zanuck, he, in my opinion, would tell you he wears a lot of the responsibility for what did not happen at the NBA trade deadline. And again, I don't think it's a huge mistake that they didn't make a big trade. The mistake they made was making no trade at all. There's a reason that Montrezl Harrell yesterday was playing pickup basketball at LA Fitness. Literally, he's at an LA Fitness playing pickup basketball. There's a reason that he's not wearing a uniform. That's the mistake. There's a reason that Spencer Dinwiddie is in Dallas and not in Utah. That's the mistake. There's a reason that people are talking about Quin Snyder resigning his position as the Utah Jazz head coach when this season's over. That's going to be the mistake, because I'm warning you now, and I've said this 1,000 times and I'll say it 1,000 more. When he leaves, if Quin Snyder is either fired or resigns, and I don't see any way, shape, or form that the Jazz are like, yeah, you're not our coach anymore. If Quin Snyder leaves, it'll be because he resigns. I have been told repeatedly that this organization is not at issue with Quin Snyder, that he is their guy and they would like him to be their guy going forward. I just am not convinced that he wants to be the head coach of the Jazz next year.
Yeah, I mean, when it doesn't get done, when your requests or the needs of the team aren't filled at the deadline the way they should be, I think you can't blame Quinn for feeling the way he feels.
Yeah.
I think you said it really well there. Like, it's not that you didn't make the blockbuster, you just didn't make anything at all, and it puts Quinn in a position where he's playing, with all due respect, I think we could all agree, they're playing with one hand tied behind their back with the talent they have on this roster. I mean, I love what Rudy can do. I even love what Don can do. Those two guys alone are not good enough together to carry you to the Western Conference Finals. You need the Dinwiddies of the world. You need the Montrezl Harrells of the world to be on your roster and not at LA Fitness. You need these guys. And I'm sure we have people who are commenting saying that Montrezl Harrell or Dinwiddie isn't, they wouldn't have made a difference. But I'm telling you, they do make a difference. They absolutely make a big difference. They're not superstars. They're not MVPs. They're not guys that are going to win awards, but they are guys that can make buckets when you need them. And that's what I think when I look at this roster. I'm like, damn, dude, I'm watching this game and Boyan's getting beat by the first step again. Like Royce is playing football on a basketball court again. Like, these are the things that you could have changed, these little things that would really help Don and Rudy and Mike, your mainstays, get more done. So I hope that Quin does not resign. I hope that Quin sticks it out. I really do, because I think he hasn't yet been handed, the absolute best roster that front office can put together. That hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, and I think one of the more interesting storylines here is, what does this roster need to play his style of basketball? And I think you're exactly right. It's the secondary player. You look at last night, Steph Curry was spectacular. Gary Payton was unbelievable last night for them. Like, when you have Klay Thompson, I think, going 1 of 6 last night, and Gary Payton's hitting multiple threes, a huge three from the wing to give them the lead again, and his defense is on lock. Everybody there is going to be talking about Steph and Klay and Jordan Poole and Draymond Green with an unbelievable screen. Gary Payton's the reason that they won that game, right? You look around this league at the very best teams. We talked about it with Phoenix, who's got a huge Game 6 tonight. You look at the fact that Cam Johnson the other night, that Mikal Bridges, he's emerging as a star.
Yeah. Who
is that guy emerging as the secondary player emerging as a star for this team? There's not one. And depth is a problem. And I know, again, the other day on YouTube, everybody wanted to argue about whether or not Quin Snyder's the reason this team doesn't have depth because he won't play him. Well, I'm telling you that they don't have depth because they don't have quality behind their top 7. And 7 guys doesn't win you a playoff series in this league. You need 8, 9 guys. And I just again point at what the best teams in this league are doing right now. Phoenix is not playing 6, 7 guys. You look at the Jazz, who are they really counting on off the bench? I mean, there's not a whole lot there. Like, is Hassan Whiteside really a guy that you would say is quality depth? I don't know. I guess it depends on the night. But not really. He's not somebody you can count on.
Yeah.
Look at it like a Daniel House. Everybody's talking about how Daniel House is a great contributor. Look, House is an important guy on this team, and that's a fucking problem. Like, he should not be a guy you're counting on. Daniel House should not be a guy that is critical to your success.
Yeah.
That's when I say they don't have depth. Yes, Jordan Clarkson, that's your guy. That's your guy.
He is quality depth.
Yes, absolutely. But my point is, he's not giving you enough because he's only one guy, right? I mean, you look at Golden State last night, and just because they played last night, they're trying to figure out, well, am I going to start Jordan Poole or am I going to start Steph Curry? Right? And then Jordan Poole moves down, and they have flexibility. They have things they can do. Steve Kerr has adjustments he can make. You're looking at a guy in Quin Snyder that everybody's like, oh, he never makes adjustments. Well, what do you want him to do?
Put Donovan Mitchell in Steph Curry's shoes. Put Donovan Mitchell on that roster. What is Donovan Mitchell at that point? If Quin Snyder has the supporting cast that Steve Kerr has, you're telling me that Quin Snyder wouldn't be going to the NBA Finals this year? If Quin Snyder had even 3/4 of what Phoenix has sitting on that bench, you're telling me that he wouldn't have he wouldn't have a deep playoff run coming to him? Well, of course he would. And that's why I say I think this is like one of the most critical times since me personally, but our show has been covering the Jazz over like the last 3-4 seasons every single day. This is one of the most important moments. These next this game, sure, but like the next probably 6-8 weeks. This is one of the most important times in the franchise's history.
Yeah.
Like you're talking about having a guy in Donovan Mitchell that you can go and do things with, but you have to go and put him in a position where he can have that opportunity. And that's what's got to happen.
It's interesting talking to guys around the league and talking to guys that are plugged in the NBA. There's a lot of people who believe that Donovan Mitchell is elite. And I just will again say the Jazz are not, in my opinion, going to trade Donovan Mitchell. All I have heard and all we have reported all season long is that the Jazz have committed to Donovan Mitchell. They have told him that they are going to remake this roster and they are going to build this team around him. And all these ideas that, that he's asking for a trade or he wants to be a Knick. I think at some point in his career, Donovan Mitchell would like to wear the Knicks uniform. I don't think that's in the next 5 years. I really don't. I don't believe that he is a problem. I have not heard one time that Donovan Mitchell causes problems or demands trades or I think Donovan Mitchell has been extremely humbled by this season. I think Donovan Mitchell is embarrassed, as he should be, by his performance in this series because it has been bad. But I think Donovan Mitchell is a wildly intelligent dude. And I think Donovan Mitchell knows that his fortunes on this club are probably tied to Quin Snyder because Quin Snyder is a very, very good X's and O's head coach. And if he quits, which it would be a shocking turn of events, if he resigns his position and he takes a year off from the NBA, because I think that's what would happen. I think money is not an issue for Quin Snyder. I think burnout and attrition is an issue for Quin Snyder. And I think that's why people are talking about it. Like, I think, again, just to reiterate, we were told yesterday that Quin Snyder is frustrated with this roster, and he is frustrated with the lack of movement that happened at the NBA trade deadline. And that there is a very good chance, especially if they lose tonight, I think that chance goes up. If they get eliminated by Dallas, there is a very good chance that he is going to resign his position as head coach of the Utah Jazz. And I'm a buyer on that. I heard it from the people that told me that yesterday. I heard it and I confirmed it from people who have just not been wrong. And again, I want to say the people I talked to at the Jazz completely denied that. They said there's no truth to that. We're in a good place with Quin. He's our head coach. We expect him to be our head coach. Like, unequivocal denials from the Jazz.
I hope so.
Unequivocal, like not a question.
Yeah.
But man, I find it hard to believe that people are putting that at 60 to 70% that he's going to resign, and there's just no truth to it.
Just imagine, just to put this in perspective about how Quin would feel, like just imagine imagine if you're coaching a basketball team, you have this guy in Donovan Mitchell who can put you over the top without a doubt, but you don't have anybody else on the roster that's good enough to really like tangibly carry you in addition to Don. And I throw Rudy into that. Rudy has a purpose, but it's different. It's not Donovan can go one-on-one with anybody and can get it done, and he just doesn't have options. And that's like tonight, like in this game. I'm going to be looking for the Jazz to play with pace tonight. I'm going to be looking for the Jazz to get the ball up the floor in Donovan Mitchell's hands and allow him to make decisions. Bojan Bogdanovic, I swear to God, you better not go 1 of 5 tonight. You better not.
But look, I don't, the shooting thing, everybody's making such a big deal about this shooting thing. What would you rather have this team do? I mean, this team does not win when they run layup drills. They don't.
Yeah.
This team needs to shoot threes. I would rather have them go 3 for 30 from 3 than take 15, 16, 20 threes in a game. Because they're not going to win. Either way, they're not going to win.
Yeah.
They're not that guy, pal. They're not the guy that's like, okay, well, let's run half court sets.
You're not that guy, pal.
No, you're not.
You're not that guy.
Know who you are as a ball club. And right now you are absolutely a shoot first team. And that's why, how many times have we sat up on this show in the morning and talked about Royce's refusal to shoot threes?
Yeah, it's real.
This is who they are. I'm fine. Listen, man, if they go 3 for 30 again and they lose, I'm fine that they went 3 for 30. I'm fine with that. Because that's your identity. Be you. Do the very best version of you. And if that means you go 3 for 30, well, shit, that's terrible. Look at the Rockets. That's who you are.
Yeah.
That's what got you here. Why all of a sudden are we trying to change philosophies? And when you talk about adjustments and you talk about Don, like, who else are you going to give the ball to? All week we've been talking about this nonsense about take 5 touches away and give them that. No, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. It's not going to happen. You want to talk about adjustments tonight? The adjustment is you play Rudy Gobert fewer minutes. And you play smaller, more aggressive guys. You play guys who can get you second chance opportunities from three. That's what this team needs. Play small ball. Where in the world is Rudy Gay? Where is he? He hasn't played a single dribble in this series.
Yeah.
How is that possible? There's got to be something there. Nobody's talking about it. Nobody's saying, hey, he's hurt, he's this, he's that. Where's Rudy Gay? Right? I don't want Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I don't want Jared Butler. I want Rudy Gay. I want guys who can shoot the three with experience. Rudy Gay's not going to have sweat in his palms when he shoots a three if he plays tonight. He's not going to be gripping the basketball. He's not going to turn down an open three. That's what I need. Is he fast? No. Is he athletic? No. Can he guard Maxi Kleber? Yeah, he can. Yeah, he can. The idea that you suddenly need to become a layup team or attack the basket, I don't disagree that the Jazz need to break the paint more. They need to attack the paint more because it creates drive and kick.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm Quin Snyder and if I am Donovan Mitchell, I'm telling him, get your ass in the center of the paint and kick that ball to the corner. That's who we are.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
Yes.
Right? Get into the center of the paint. You'll know that this Jazz team is clicking tonight if Donovan Mitchell drives, kicks to the corner, rotate to the wing, Bogey shoots a three. That's the essence of this team at their best. High pick and roll, shoot a three. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
What I'm not fine with is Jordan Clarkson, being, a ballerina in the middle of the paint for a turnover. Donnie driving into the paint, turning the ball over. I'm not fine with that. Lobbing the ball to Rudy in the post for a dribble turnover. I'm not fine with that because that's not who you've been. That's not who you are. Be you. Listen, if you're going to go down in a fight, go down throwing.
Yeah.
Go down, be you.
Well, I think that what that looks like, their best performances have been 40 to 45 three-point attempts.
Yeah.
And they make 20 to 24 of them.
Yeah.
That's like what the best version of Jazz basketball is. And I think that I guess I do agree with you. I mean, I would rather see them go, 3 of a gazillion and lose than go, 10 of 12 with a bunch of twos.
Give me 40, 50 threes tonight.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen mainly because I think Dallas has done a very good job of attacking the three-point line defensively. But when you shoot 33s, you probably could have shot 35 or 40. And they stopped shooting because they were not shooting well.
Yeah.
That's the worst thing in the world. When you look at a team that's living and dying by the three and they stop shooting, that's terrible.
Well, it's almost like you want to just work through the rut. Just keep shooting it because the percentages say that it will go in at a certain point.
And at some point, and I think this is part of the Quin Snyder situation. I think Quin Snyder has to have the cojones to sit Rudy Gobert. You got to sit him. And the only time I would play him is when the 3-point, I can't think of his name. Yes. Davis Bertans is on the floor. I'm playing Rudy Gobert.
Yeah, that's a smart move.
I'm playing Rudy Gobert. Other than that, I'm not. Because if Davis Bertans is going to beat me with threes, okay, cool. He shoots an incredibly inconsistent
He's had
three.
one game in this series.
I'm not letting Maxi Kleber beat me. I'm not letting Reggie Bullock beat me. I'm not letting Dorian Finney-Smith. Are you going to give up layups? Yes. But ask yourself this. Would you rather give up layups or would you rather give up Luka stroll into it 3-point shots?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm the Jazz tonight, I there's got to be just an outright commitment to the switching thing with Luka can't be a thing tonight. You can't allow, and this plays into your point about Rudy and being willing to take him off the floor. You can't allow Luka to get the switch and play with Rudy one-on-one, which is precisely why Rudy Gay needs to be on the floor. Because at that point, and I'm not saying Rudy Gay is going to lock up Luka, but I like my chances a lot better with Rudy Gay on the perimeter than I do with Rudy Gobert. That's just my opinion. But I just hope that tonight we get a good performance out of Don. They make their threes, and this is a close game. I don't want to see this team just get trounced, at home by 25 again, and I don't think that'll happen, but I just hope it's a close game. That's what I hope. And if they win it, great. Then we get to talk about Game 7 tomorrow, and everything's awesome. But I just hope they put up a fight at the very least.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's imperative tonight that you get aggressive. I just don't want to see this team collapse.
Yeah.
I don't want to see this team collapse. And this is not how this is supposed to end. This is not how this is supposed to end. And I will again just say that the moment that this season ends, whether that's tonight or Saturday in Dallas or after round 2, my guess is it's Saturday in Dallas. But when this season ends, this incarnation of the Utah Jazz is done because changes are coming. You are going to see significant movement on this roster in the offseason. And I think one of the real tests of Ryan Smith as an owner, and think through this real quick, one of the real tests of Ryan Smith as an owner is going to be his ability to keep Donovan Mitchell happy and Quin Snyder as his head coach. I think those are the two biggest challenges this offseason because from my perspective, there's not a whole lot Donovan Mitchell can do. He's under contract. I think he's got 3 more years. If they want to play hardball, they could. But that's not how you prosper. Don's got to want to be here. He's got to be bought in. But I'm telling you, Quin Snyder's a pivotal part of this. And if you change this roster, Quin Snyder can be your head coach. If you do not significantly change this roster, you've got to change the head coach. Whether he leaves or you show him the door, Quin Snyder can't be your head coach with this roster anymore. And he does not want to be. He has made that. That's the other thing that was interesting is that, and it depends on what you believe, or there was a difficult conversation about this roster after the deadline. There was a real difficult conversation. And I think some of the frustration with Quinn and the organization is who he will play and not play. I think that while I'm not ready to say that there's philosophical differences, Quin Snyder does not play just anybody willy-nilly. I think they had a specific need, and I think that specific need was wing athleticism. And they simply went out and got Nickeil Alexander-Walker to address that. And that's just not good enough.
Not even close.
And I think one of the more interesting guys this summer, what's going to happen to Trent Forest? What is his ultimate fate on this roster? Because those are the guys ultimately, they're going to trade Rudy Gobert. I'm telling you now, they're going to trade Rudy Gobert. They're going to. In my opinion, that's 75, 85%. They're going to trade Rudy Gobert. The question is, who else on this roster are they in love with? Who else are they married to? Because the only guy is Donovan Mitchell. But you need filler. You need, Azubuike's not a guy of consequence. Hassan Whiteside, Rudy Gay. Most of these guys are not guys of consequence. But how open to trading Jordan Clarkson are you? How open to trading Trent Forest are you? How open to trading Bojan Bogdanovic are you? I think they're pretty open to all of that.
And they should be. They're not in a position not to be.
But I wonder if a guy like a Trent Forest, because again, my overwhelming opinion is Trent Forest is just a jag. He's just a guy. He can't shoot the ball. He's got a very limited use. I don't think he's the defender that everybody makes him out to be. I just think he's a guy. On any other roster, he's 11, 12, 13, right? He just doesn't play. Here, he was getting serious minutes before he ran into Rudy Gobert's fist, right? He was getting, that's the moment where his season pretty much came to an end. He's not even dressing at this point. So I'm curious on if any of these young guys, are they married to Jared Butler? Does Jared Butler get thrown in as a cherry on top of a trade? I wonder.
Yeah.
Because you've got to change what you're doing now. So here nor there, what is your prediction on the game tonight before we get to the YouTube comments? Because there's a lot of you. I appreciate you all being here. By the way, while you're sitting here listening to this amazing Jazz talk, make sure you shop our affiliate links below. Again, I will just say the greatest t-shirt in the history of t-shirts is in our affiliate links. The Carhartt t-shirt. And the other thing that is in our affiliate links that you are sleeping on is that little gel thing that cleans your car. I got one of those, and I'm telling you,
Come on, let's go, Schlep Rock.
That thing's amazing.
Get it done.
That thing's amazing. Anyway, your prediction on the game tonight.
Yeah, I think tonight, the way the game is going to go, the first half, the Jazz are going to come out roaring. I think that they're going to shoot the lights out. I think that we're going to get classic Jazz basketball, and they're going to be feeling great about themselves. I think to come into the to get into the second half, I think it's going to be a real quick decision on who wins this game in the third quarter. If Dallas comes out in the third quarter and they're running Jalen Brunson in the middle of the paint, Dallas is going to win the game. But I think if they stick with Luka and we're seeing a lot of setbacks and that type of play out of Dallas, then the Jazz are going to win the game. But it is all decided on that first 14, 15 minutes in the first half on what this game is going to do. But I do think they come out shooting the lights out.
First of all, remember this is an 8:00 game.
Yeah.
So it's a 9:00 game in Dallas. So it is a late game. The other thing you got to remember is that the Jazz have been home for 3 full days. And my guess is they're going to come out and they are going to be red hot right out of the gate. And from what I understand, they've had conversations. The conversations in the team have been about intensity and fighting to the death, that they are not going to go quietly. And I think you're right. I think they come out and they play to their identity. I think Bojan Bogdanovic has a huge first quarter. But my question is, what's their third quarter look like?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's where Dallas has been winning this series, is they have been able to operate in the third quarter. And my other question is, how do you defend Jalen Brunson? Because Luka's going to get his. In series like this, Luka and Don are going to get theirs. Don's going to have 30-40 tonight. Luka's probably going to have 20-30. But who's that other guy? So I think Mike Conley and Bojan Bogdanovic have to answer the bell tonight. I think that if you're the Jazz, you're going to start the 5 you always start. Bogey, Conley, Don, Royce, and Rudy. That's your 5, right? How long do we have Rudy Gobert in the game? Is he out at the 8-minute mark? Is he out at the 6-minute mark? What is Mike Conley doing tonight? Because Mike Conley, let's be honest, Mike's going to be here if he wants to be here unless they trade him. He's making 21.5. So he's not going to retire.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard that 1,000 times that Mike Conley's going to retire. He's not. I think this is a prove-it game for Mike Conley. This is that game in Dallas a couple of weeks ago where Rudy sat. This is that game the other night, game 5 in Dallas. Now you have a third opportunity. Are you going to no-show 3 straight times? I don't know. Let's find out. My guess is that Don, Conley, and Bogey are going to have big nights tonight. All 3 of those guys got to be 20+. Don's got to score 35+. Bogey and Conley both got to have 20. If that happens, I feel like they win.
And I'd like to see when Don is sitting tonight, I would like to see the physicality from Royce and a little bit from House pick up in those minutes. I'm not a huge fan of the dirty play out of Royce, let's say, but I would like to see some physical toughness in the non-Don minutes, because I think Dallas is a team that you can get in them a little bit, and you can kind of get them off their game a little bit with the physicality.
It's a family show.
Sorry.
No body cavity.
Bet you weren't expecting this one.
No. All right, let's get your comments in here. What do you think score-wise? I think this is if the Jazz are going to win, this needs to be over 220.
Yeah.
I
mean, if the Jazz are going to win the game, it's their low 120s, so probably, 120, 121.
Nah, if that happens, Dallas wins. If this goes, I think the sweet spot is 220, over under 220, and I think the Jazz need to win this game like 115 to 105, 115, something in that neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
Because that means that you were able to defend a little bit, but you shot the ball well.
Yeah.
They need to shoot 40% from 3. They need to shoot 30+ threes, and they need to get to the free throw line. And this series, remember what's on the table tonight. You've got 3 game 6s. Phoenix, New Orleans, Toronto, Philly, and then Dallas and Utah. So how many game 7s does the NBA want? My guess is the Jazz, Raptors, and New Orleans are going to get a whole lot of calls tonight. That'd be my guess. So if I'm the Jazz, I come out extremely active. If I'm the Jazz, I try to get Dallas in foul trouble. I'm going right at Dinwiddie the minute he comes in the game, trying to get him in foul trouble. And I'm going to do that with a lot of pick and roll action. And let's see what happens. I mean, my feeling is that Jazz, my prediction is that Jazz will win this game 115-107. Something like that.
Okay.
This will be 8-10. Jazz will win. We'll get a game 7.
Hope
That'd
so.
be my guess.
I hope so.
My guess is that Phoenix closes and that we get a game 7 Philly-Toronto.
Man,
That'd be my guess.
That's going to pucker a little bit for Doc.
That is. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Let's get some of your comments in here. Love you guys. Thank you so much for everything that you guys do to support this show. Let's go. Pinkman says, let's go Utah. Jackson, what's up? First one in this morning. George Mashika says, hello. James Knight, what's up, mofos? Snooka says, Kawabunga, my dudes. Steve Hambone says, good morning. I think we'll win if we don't get out coached again. Well, I don't think he got out coached. I just think that Jason Kidd has far more to work with than Quin Snyder does. Jason Kidd's got like a legitimate bench.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're bringing Maxi Kleba and Spencer Dinwiddie and
You have answers off the bench.
you have guys who can come in and play. You know, when you're bringing Jalen Brunson off the bench, you got guys that can come in and play.
Yeah.
You know, so I think he's got a lot more to work with. Snyder is the next Spurs coach, James Knight says. Maybe. BB says, can they really move half this team in the offseason? I think they can. I think they could have moved half the team at the deadline.
Yeah.
I don't have necessarily a problem with them not making a major deal at the deadline. I want to have all my chips in my hand in the summer. They should have done something. They had opportunities at lesser deals and they passed. That was a mistake. Like if there was one trade scenario that had them ending up with, pieces out of a Lakers, Washington, Houston deal. And, there was some talk that they could have had Talon Horton Tucker and Christian Wood. And they would have given up Rudy Gobert and Royce O'Neal in that deal. That's a foundationally changing deal.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised they didn't do that. It would have been a great deal, but it would have meant the Lakers would have wound up with John Wall, and it is my guess. I mean, who knows what the other pieces would have been. But if they'd have ended up with Wood, Harrell, and Talon Horton Tucker, I'd have been fine with that.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
The problem is they don't have draft picks to give up. I mean, I think their next available first rounder is 25. I can never remember if it's 25 or 26. One of the two. I mean, they had opportunities. So I think you're going to see that happen. It's simply a matter of how much money Ryan Smith is willing to eat, because he's going to have to eat. It's not a matter of if. When you paid that Mike Conley deal, that meant that you were going to send cash out to get something back.
Yeah.
Pretty much. And there's restrictions on that as well, by the way. So, it'll just be interesting to see. And now a guy that deal can't be made because John Wall's got like a player option and Montrezl Harrell, I think, is going to be a free agent. So it's going to be tougher to make quality deals, but we'll see. There's a sucker born every day, man. George says, I've seen one trade rumor. I don't think so. Barrett and picks enough for Donovan. Well, I don't know how to put this. The Utah Jazz are not trading Donovan Mitchell.
Why do we obsess over Don to the Knicks, man?
Because it's easy. Because he's got family there and his former agent is there, and I get it. The Utah Jazz are not trading Donovan Mitchell. They would have to get an incredible offer. It would have to be first-round picks, incredible talent. Like, it would. But what are you then left with? The other part of this is, whether you believe it or not, Donovan Mitchell is viewed as a superstar in this league.
Yeah.
He is viewed as the now and the future. They're not, and they don't want to trade Donovan Mitchell. I've been told repeatedly that they don't want to trade Donovan Mitchell. And I think, by the way, I think we've been pretty accurate on trade stuff with the Jazz, right? When Ryan Smith, came out and laughed at the idea that they were trading Joe Ingles. We told you they're trading Joe Ingles. They're going to trade him.
And then what happened?
And when you look at things like Donovan Mitchell, I have not heard one time from one person around the NBA. I have not heard from the guys at the Jazz I know. They are not trading Donovan Mitchell. We reported right after the deadline, the Knicks called repeatedly trying to get a Donovan Mitchell deal done at the deadline, and the Jazz didn't even engage. So the Knicks can call all they want. The answer is still going to be the same. It would be shocking. Nothing's not happening. 100% they won't. I don't see a scenario in the next 2 years where they trade Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah.
It's just not. They have no desire to do that. They are not going to trade him. They are not actively trying to trade him. They are not having discussions about him. You can just put that shit to bed because it's not going to. They're not trading Donovan Mitchell for R.J. Barrett. Yeah. That is the dumbest thing that I have heard. Like, you're going to trade an alpha male like Donovan Mitchell for a BC player like R.J. Barrett. Come on. Jesus Christ Destroys Atheism says, really, really good points, Jake. You're saying exactly what my dad and I were saying last night on a phone call. I agree. I think they're out of gas. They just don't have the right pieces.
God bless.
Gabe Ledley, good morning to you. Rec1 says, hey, Rec, good to see you. Would you do a trade Rudy versus Westbrook or Ben Simmons? I would not. Mm-mm. And by the way, this shit on Ben Simmons needs to stop. Like, I know that people are passionate and they're upset that Ben Simmons didn't play. This guy's dealing with anxiety and depression. And there is that, I don't know if I told you about this. The other day I was talking to one of my NBA guys, and he was saying that there's legitimate concern for Ben Simmons as a human being. Like, forget basketball. Did you guys know this story that Ben Simmons is physically capable of playing, and he told them, I'm just not there mentally, I can't do it. Because he basically, some people are saying he had a panic attack. Some people are saying he had a severe onset of anxiety. Like, he is struggling with his mental health. We need to stop this ripping Ben Simmons thing. And understand at some point, you need to understand that mental health is not something to joke with. Did you see this girl? I think it was at James Madison, this softball player at JMU, I think it was. Star softball player, out of nowhere, committed suicide. And it's like multiple athletes now.
Yeah, you had that goaltender from, was Stanford?
Stanford, the soccer player.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like, the pressure on these people is immense. Now, pressure, in my opinion, is self-inflicted. But some people can't deal with it. Attacking people because they're dealing with anxiety and depression is stupid. And frankly, you're an asshole for doing it. And we need to stop doing it. Ben Simmons, I get it. He disappointed you. What did you really lose because of Ben Simmons?
I think the only question I have about the whole situation, and this is the question I always have for athletes like Ben Simmons or otherwise, is just these people have, massive resources. They have things that they could go to and do. And so I'm just curious, like, what the game plan is for him, because he has been sitting out for like what is
a year,
like a long time
a
now,
year. Ben Simmons has been on the sideline for a year.
Yeah.
And what I think people forget is he had a major incident in Philadelphia. Like, that whole wooden dunk pass, you choked, you're a POS, get out of here thing. He had by some estimations, he had a mental incident that led to that whole situation. And we want to talk basketball, and we want to rip Ben Simmons for basketball.
Yeah.
Stop ripping Ben Simmons for basketball. The guy is dealing with anxiety and depression. That's a serious thing. If Ben Simmons, meets a demise through anxiety and depression, I don't even want to say it out loud, but if something goes horribly wrong with Ben Simmons, and I don't care about basketball at that point. We're talking about a human being, man. Like, anxiety and depression needs to stop being something you're embarrassed about, and we need to openly and honestly talk about it, because Ben Simmons is struggling to live his life. He's not struggling to play basketball. He's struggling to live his life. Okay, I'll stop. Let's see. Justin Fulmer, good morning to you. Blow it up, he says. Only untouchable is Donnie. Blow it up. Good morning, Rudy Sanchez. Steve Hambone says, why haven't we played Butler? What are we going to do with Butler? I just don't think that Butler got enough time in the G League, in my opinion. He should have been down there for a solid 6 weeks. Let him put up 30, 40 points a night. Great. Bring him back, play him. Because what happens, unfortunately, is you go down to the G League, he scored 30 points, he came up and he sat. And then when he played, he wasn't great. He was wildly inconsistent. But that's not really his fault. He's not getting development. Development time in the NBA is really minute. It is so small. Pre-game shoot-arounds, or you need legitimate practice time, and it's at a premium in the NBA these days. Jesus Christ says, well, Miguel Bridge is not a star yet. You mean Mikal Bridges? Is not a star. He's actually a very good role player, but he has drive. He's a role player, but he has drive, and he doesn't quit. That's why he's good. Mikal Bridges is long as hell, and I actually think he is the best defensive player in the NBA right now. I with all due respect to Marcus Smart, I mean, he locks you down. What he did to Brandon Ingram the other night, ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that Bridges has over Smart is length, and that's the thing defensively that you need to stop guys like Durant's and Ingram's and, you know, all these guys who have physical gifts that you can't teach somebody to have long-ass arms, right? So, like, you can teach hustle and hard and defensive technique and where to put your feet and your hips and everything, but you can't teach Mikal Bridges how to make his arms longer. So that's what I'm saying. Like, Mikal Bridges' length makes him an elite defender. And then on top of understanding angles and how to play defense and like understanding how to get in guys' heads, and on top of being able to make the corner three and back cut and all this stuff, he's just a heady player.
And he's unflappable.
Yeah.
Like, the guy doesn't seem to get nervous. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Cody Strickland says, morning, men. Just got to say what happens tonight does not matter. It was a fun season to watch. Really?
Listen, I saw your post in the Facebook group yesterday. And I can't believe, with all due respect, I can't believe we're in a position where we're sitting here saying, like we're basically saying the season's over. Like, we're basically already having that conversation where we're saying, well, you know, yeah, no matter what, great season, guys. Like, mentally, I'm not there yet. I'm still at, hey, this team is not eliminated. They could still win the series. That's still within them.
Yeah.
But they got to come out and play their best basketball.
The expectations that were placed on this season is why everybody's disappointed. I mean, it just expectations that were unfounded. You know, like, I don't understand why people, and we talked about this last year as well, I know, but why did people think you were a championship contender this year?
Why did you think that you were going to compete for a championship when you're the same team and every other team got better?
You know, I'm a narcissist and I like hearing myself talk. Actually, I don't. I can't stand my own voice. It's weird. But I went back last night and I was listening to what we said when the season started. We actually predicted they would finish fifth in the West. We said they'd be a mid-table Western Conference team. So I feel like our predictions were pretty spot on. I don't know who was predicting them to win a championship. That's crazy to me. It's crazy. Let's see. Greg Hawkins says, sup, what's up? James Knight says, Brooklyn has two superstars and they got swept. Go figure. Yeah, the Kyrie vaccine Ramadan thing absolutely impacted that team. Justin Fulmer says, love Gobert, but time to move him. John H., good morning to you. Snyder is great, X&O coach, but he doesn't seem to be a great motivator. But you have a roster full of guys that, do you really need to motivate Bojan Bogdanovic? You know, and this is when we talk about Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell, here's their biggest weakness. If they need to be motivated, they should not be here. You're paying a guy $41.5 million a year on average, and you need to motivate him?
Well, it's what Kobe said all those years ago. You know, if I gotta beg you to get in the gym, I don't want to be around you. You know, if you gotta, you know, pry a guy to come to practice early and leave late, I don't want to be around you. And that's what I think the interesting part about this roster is. I think, you know, earlier in today's show we said that this team knows that this is it for this squad whenever the season comes to an end. And I think that when you know that, I just would think that you don't need motivation. You should be playing your ass off.
Yep. And Garcia says, yo, and Garcia, good to see you, bud. Thanks for the tweet. Appreciate it. Justin Fulmer says, Quin Snyder's going to the Lakers or Duke. Well, he's not going to Duke. They hired John Shire.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's going to Duke. But my guess is that if he, and again, if you're just joining the show, we're talking about Quin because I heard from multiple NBA sources yesterday that there's a 60 to 70% chance that Quin Snyder is going to resign once the season is over. And he is dealing with significant frustration with this roster, and there's a belief that he is, he's just done for a minute. And you can see it wearing on him. Quin is visibly frustrated. My guess is that he would resign. The Jazz will not fire Quin Snyder, in my opinion. I think he is their guy. I truly think he is their guy. John H. says also Donovan Mitchell needs to man up and wear contact lenses. He supposedly is getting laser surgery after the season, so we'll see about that. Jesus says Quin reminds me of Coach Mike D'Antoni 2.0. Seriously, same style. The Jazz team is somewhat like those Nash Suns team. No,
that's
not at
dude.
all.
That's different.
Stylistically, they're completely. I mean, you had Amari Stoudemire on that team. I mean, you had Dan Marley on those older Suns teams, like the Barkley Marley teams.
Dude,
you had
D'Antoni's style is run the ball up the floor and shoot with 5 seconds.
Run and
in.
gun.
Yeah.
He is a volume coach. Quin Snyder is not a volume coach. Does it make a major difference if they somehow get past Dallas and then get swept in the second round? I don't know.
I think it makes you feel a little better about yourself. Then you can say you won a playoff series.
But you went out in the second round again. Like I don't know. I mean, if they move past Dallas, it will be a tremendous achievement. Tremendous achievement. I don't think it'll matter blowing the roster up. I really don't. And Neville 93, good morning to you. And Garcia says one-dimensional team with one-dimensional players and a coach that can't get it done.
Well, thanks for your contribution today, bud.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I agree. Justin Fulmer says, seriously, thank you. Where the hell is Rudy Gay at the 5 against Kleba? I don't know, man. I don't know. What's up, Jeremy Bolton? Neville 93 says, if the Jazz win tonight, do you think they could have a chance or no? Yeah, I mean, if you play game 7, all bets are off.
Listen, they have a chance. Like, let's be really clear about this. I feel like we're already having the funeral procession for this team, and they're still eating their last supper here. Like, come on. Like, they have a chance to win this series still. I do think that they will come out tonight on an absolute heater. They will make, I think I can't remember. I'd have to go back, but in my head, I'm remembering a game this season where they had like 17 threes in one half at one point or whatever. Like
the Clippers game last year.
Yeah, like they're capable of doing insane things from three, and that's what I feel like we're gonna see tonight. It's set up perfectly. It's on a tee for them to just smash the first half and just get out to a lead. That's what I think happens.
Yeah, Marcus says, aren't you the same guys who said that they built around Rudy Gobert? They did build this team around Rudy Gobert.
They did, yes.
Absolutely, and it's a huge mistake. Yeah, I said that. This team is built to feed everything to Rudy Gobert.
It is precisely why they're in the situation they're in.
Yeah, absolutely. Hambone says, hopefully they got so embarrassed last game that they come out and just rain threes like we know they can. Yeah, exactly. Oh, JP Shanahan, what's up? Good to see you live, my friend. He says, morning, by the way, or should I say morning, M-O-U-R-N, like we're mourning the
See
death.
what he did there, morning, but like people are dying, like, it's,
Good one.
Yeah.
I like that. Let's see. Brandon Butler says, you hope that Conley and Gay retire and free up cap space. Mike Conley ain't walking away from 21.5.
Nah.
That's not happening. You misspelled Cajones. Somebody misspelled Cajones? Okay, I like that. It is what it is. Quin is Mike D'Antoni 2.0. No, I don't think he is.
Disagree.
Who's at fault when they are getting smoked with corner threes and Gobert's ass that can't get to the corner? Well, it's not Rudy Gobert. And I think this is something that at some point we all have to come to grips with. It's not Rudy Gobert's fault that he is unable to defend the three-point line. In Houston, yeah, I don't know what he was thinking dropping, but they have coached him not to drop. So what has he done? He's not dropping, but he's not attacking the three-point line, right? And against a guy like Luka Doncic, I don't know that you want Rudy Gobert on the floor at all. And this is where I say it's not Rudy Gobert's fault. Ask yourself this question. If Quin Snyder takes Rudy Gobert off and he plays Eric Paschall, who he's been wanting to at times play in that small ball lineup, you're a better defensive team on the perimeter, but you give up more at the rim. And I'm fine giving up more at the rim. I'd rather have Luka make a layup than stupid 3 after 3.
Yeah.
Like, I'd rather do that, right? But when you have Rudy Gobert in the game, if you want to blame Rudy for those pick and roll switches, I just think you're putting your blame in the wrong spot. I think you have to blame Dennis Lindsey for the pick and roll switches because you don't have guys to defend that. You have to blame Justin Zanuck because he didn't make a move at the deadline to upgrade that spot. So now you're with Rudy Gay, who was hurt most of the year, was ineffective at times, and now just isn't seeing the floor. This is not Rudy Gobert's fault. They knew 3 years ago that teams were switching to him. We told you last year, you can't have him on the floor in the last 5 minutes against the Clippers because it'll be a disaster. And what happened? It was a disaster, not for the final 5 minutes, for the entire game.
Yeah.
Right? So this is no longer Rudy Gobert's fault. He is a limited defender. He's elite in the paint. Elite. Guys won't even try layups on him a lot of times. But he is incredibly limited outside of the painted area.
So if you're Quin Snyder and this guy's making $41 million, what are you supposed to do?
I would play Eric Paschall more. Roll and die. By the way, he's best friends with Donovan Mitchell. They played high school ball together. I would play Eric Paschall more. I would limit Rudy Gobert. I would. I know it's crazy talk, and I would play Rudy Gobert far less. Far less. I would play him in specific matchups, again, with Davis Bertans being one of those. But I would limit him significantly.
Yeah.
All right, couple more on the Jazz. Michael Burton says, let's get Gobert over to the Warriors and get the boys another 3 rings. They're not trading him to Dallas, and I guarantee you they're not trading him to Golden State. I still maintain, if I were a betting man, Rudy Gobert will be a Toronto Raptor. I think that's the most likely
Coast
spot.
Team.
I would agree with that.
East Coast.
I would agree with that. I would have much rather seen him end up in Toronto. Toronto, Washington.
You can't trade him to a team that you're going to see like 10 times a year. You're not doing that, man.
Yeah.
You're not doing it.
Dallin Watts. Good morning to you, Dallin. Are you a first-timer here? Just curious, do we keep saying changes are coming because it doesn't make sense to continue with the same roster that base hit its ceiling? Or is it because some kind of confirmed Jazz news? I can only tell you that the only time we report something is when we have somebody in the NBA or at the Jazz telling us that. And I would just go back and remind you, we knew long before they traded Joe Ingles that they were trading Joe Ingles. We knew we pretty much nailed the trade deadline for you. We knew back to Jared Butler in the draft, like our Jazz sourcing is pretty good. Our NBA sourcing is pretty good. And it's why we've been able to break so many Jazz stories, particularly this season, because we've worked really hard to develop relationships around the NBA. And we've been able to develop relationships inside the Jazz. Like it is not something that we do lightly. It's why you don't see us just throwing stuff against the wall every day. It's why look at our Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert thing. We've been telling you since November, December that they're going to trade Rudy Gobert, and that they had a conversation with Donovan Mitchell that they are going to rebrand this team around him, that they are going to rebuild this roster around him. And he has told them that he does not want to be here unless they are doing everything that they can do to win championships. And again, I will just reiterate that we were told point blank that Donovan Mitchell and the Utah Jazz, Ryan Smith and Danny Ainge, have had meetings and conversations with Donovan where they have told him we are going to significantly change this roster. We were the first to report it. They are going to rebuild this team around Donovan Mitchell. They are not going to trade Donovan Mitchell.